Record Store Day 2021 is coming up, and I want to talk about some predictions and hopes that are not just me throwing stuff at the wall and saying, oh, I hope this gets pressed. All of these are based in some sort of logic, and some of them are more logical than others. But here are some titles that I think could be on the list this year, and it'd be fun to see if I'm right with any of them. You know, you'd think Record Store Day is the kind of thing where labels will be excited to repress maybe those lost records from the 90s that people have been asking for on vinyl for the first time, or records that have been out of print for a long time. Those surprising delights when people see the list is what makes Record Store Day a holiday worth revisiting year after year. The problem is, I don't know who's deciding on these titles, because for every one amazing, unexpected space hog or something that people get really jazzed about, you get like 15 titles that I'm like, who actually is listening to this? And I say that with sincerity, because a lot of the times, these are the titles you'll see in the Record Store Day bin 8 months after the fact in your local store, because no one wants them. Who's pressing them? Why are these being pressed? I don't know. The other question is, will Record Store Day be split again like it was last year because of the pandemic? Last year, they took RSD in April, and they split it into 3 drops later in the summer. So they were spaced out a month apart, the list was fragmented into 3 separate drops. A lot of people liked it. I actually ended up getting everything I wanted online at stores' online storefronts because I didn't want to go into the shops with a mask, and it just felt like a whole lot. I was successful with everything I wanted. I know a lot of people in the Too Many Records Facebook group actually went to their stores and enjoyed the new format. It splits up how much you have to spend over 3 months as opposed to 1 day. So that's kind of cool. But who knows if they're going to do it again this year? Your guess is as good as mine. Leave a comment with what you think about that. So let's talk about some predictions with some serious logic as to what could be on the RSD list for 2021. The first thing I'll say is we are guaranteed to get some stuff no one really needs from David Bowie, Prince, and Paul McCartney. Now, I love all those artists, don't get me wrong, but every year there's stuff on the list that I'm like, who really needs this outside of people that have like 80,000 records in their room and they need to have every release from these artists to stay completionists? It's usually elaborate box sets that no one really asked for, or picture discs that no one will listen to, or 7 inches with songs that are kind of afterthoughts and not necessary in your collection. They're really just cash cows to me. I've never really bought anything from Record Store Day from these artists because they always feel very ancillary to the actual catalog of these artists, but that's just one thing. The That Thing You Do soundtrack. So, That Thing You Do, classic film, everybody loves it, the music is wonderful. Adam Schlesinger from Fountains of Wayne helped write some of that stuff, which is why it's so catchy, and it's never been on vinyl. There has been a couple rumors, and substantiated rumors by people in the industry, that Mondo will be pressing That Thing You Do at some point. Now, Record Store Day seems like a pretty good time to be announcing this because it's a big title, a lot of people are going to be excited about it, and soundtracks are often a big focus of the RSD list, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that pop up this year. Speaking of Adam Schlesinger, Fountains of Wayne had a huge one last year with Welcome Interstate Managers. That was one of my most wanted albums on vinyl since I got into the hobby. Unfortunately, there were a couple issues like the track name on the back being wrong, which was kind of annoying. But ultimately, it sounds really good and I'm happy to own it. That was a big success. It's even spawned a couple sub-variants from certain retailers. I think Bull Moose had a couple ones. So that's awesome. I'm hoping that maybe this is now a sign that they should be pressing more Fountains of Wayne stuff. We have almost everything on vinyl. The self-title's about to get a repress, which has been out of print for a while. So let's get some of the stuff that's not on vinyl. Let's get Out of State Plates, which is their B-Sides compilation, or Traffic and Weather, which is an amazing record of theirs as well that's never seen the wax treatment. So maybe, since the success of the last one, they're planning for more. Alice in Chains' self-titled record, or Tripod as some call it, I know that they've been working on these Alice in Chains reissues for a while. I actually spoke to Jerry Cantrell at an Amoeba signing a couple years back, and I asked him about this, and he said they are working on it. So that's confirmation that it's at least in their mind, if not actually happening. And Record Store Day is a time for big reissues, big 90s reissues, and, Alice in Chains self-titled is a wonderful record that has a bootleg out that's readily available, but I want a remastered for vinyl, really crunchy version, and I think RSD could be the best place to drop it, especially since they just reissued Facelift for the first time in decades. I think Phish is probably going to have another reissue. They've been slowly reissuing their back catalog year after year, and I think this could be the year for Farmhouse, their 2000 album. It hasn't been on vinyl since 2000, and Record Store Day has been home to many of their reissues, including Billy Breathes, Story of the Ghost, Rift, Hoist. They've really spent a lot of RSD kind of getting that old material back, so if they're following the trend, I think we could see another Phish out of print record this year. I think Farmhouse is my guess. Here's one that I really love. The Wrens, Meadowlands. So Meadowlands is a indie emo rock album from the early 2000s. really, really good. I feel like it's kind of a similar vibe to American Football's first album at times. It's just really good songwriting, really emotional kind of stuff, and really great guitar work. And they reissued their lesser album, Silver, for Record Store Day recently, which I was very surprised to see. So maybe they're finally going to reissue this out-of-print gem, because the last one was a Record Store Day exclusive. Why wouldn't this be? I'm also predicting we're going to see some John Frusciante, which is the guitarist from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He has slowly been reissuing his extremely out-of-print back catalog, starting with the ones that aren't as in demand, which is kind of weird. We saw recent reissues of The Empyrean and of Curtains, which are good albums, but some of those early ones are really desirable. And I think if we're moving backwards, which it seems like we kind of are, The Will to Death might be the next one to come. I would certainly welcome it. I'm a huge fan of his guitar work. I think he's one of the most brilliant musicians ever, and those records go for stupid prices, so hopefully RSD will see some John. And then this one is a bit of a stretch, but I'm just putting it out there. If you saw my Grail video this year, you saw one of my top Grails is My Chemical Romance Conventional Weapons. Only existed as a 7-inch box set. Each 7-inch was on a different color. It's the lost MCR album. It's one that never really made it to vinyl, never really got promoted in a big way the way their other 4 records did, and it's really good. Unfortunately, the vinyl box set goes for like $500 though. Recently, we have seen MCR pop up a lot on Record Store Day, with Black Parade is Dead and Murder Scene, a lot of good live stuff from across the MCR eras. Now, My Chemical Romance came back in a big way with their reunion tour, which unfortunately got squashed in a big way thanks to the pandemic. So I'm wondering if they're trying to stay relevant as they're waiting to get back on tour. This would be a great way to get people talking, is to do a proper release of Conventional Weapons. Whether it's a remake of the box set or it's just a nice standard 2-disc pressing, I would be stoked on either. Now here are some hopes that are kind of logical, just based on they've been out of print for a long time, etc., etc. I don't really have a lot of RSD related logic, but here are some titles that I think I would hope to see on the list if it were up to me. Beck's Midnite Vultures. I can't believe this hasn't been pressed yet. It has been out of print for years and years, and I have seen people constantly saying this is their most wanted reissue. It's a pretty fantastic Beck record, and almost everything else at least came in print for a bit in the past few years. This one has eluded the fans, so it's about time. RSD would be a big splash, and I'm hoping that it makes the list. Frank Ocean's Channel Orange. There's absolutely no logic behind this. I just want it. My bootleg's fine, but give me a blonde level pressing. Slipknot's Iowa. This is another one on my Grail list for this year. They did Volume 3, the Subliminal Verses, back in the day and for Record Store Day, so it's not unheard of for Slipknot to work with the RSD machine. Iowa's been out of print for a very long time, and yes, there is a bootleg available, but I would like to go for an original if possible. Whenever there's an original of a bootleg, I always try to go for that. So fingers crossed that maybe it gets the treatment of a reissue, because a lot of people want this amazing record. Lights, Siberia. Lights is one of my favorite singer-songwriters that does acoustic and electropop equally well. Siberia is the electronic version of Siberia Acoustic, which is one of my top 100 albums of all time. It is also the only one of her records that is still out of print. A lot of the other ones have been kept in print fairly well. This one is elusive and hasn't had a repress in a while. I heard a rumor, I think on Reddit, that she is planning to reissue it. What better time than Record Store Day? Let's talk Tool for a second. Their most recent album, Fear Inoculum, kind of split the fans. I know some people loved it, some were underwhelmed. That being said, people are rabid for Tool vinyl, and Fear Inoculum got about 9,000 bootlegs, but no official pressing. Also with 10,000 Days, their album prior to that, the same thing. A ton of bootlegs, no official pressing. I think the insane thing would be for RSD to announce a Tool vinyl box set of the whole catalog. People would lose their minds. At the very least, let's get official pressings of the last 2 records to keep everything with an official press. I just don't know what they're waiting for. This is a throwback. Savage Garden's self-titled record. This is kind of a shot in the dark, but with a lot of pop albums from the 90s and early 2000s getting all of these pressings lately, like NSYNC and Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Urban Outfitters is pressing them constantly. Different variants, different albums, even albums I never heard of by some of these artists, but obviously there's a market for them. I actually met the singer of Savage Garden in LA, and I mentioned vinyl to him because I do have a lot of nostalgia for that first album. There's some really great tracks on there, and he said he was interested in vinyl. He was actually talking with his label about it recently, so I wouldn't be surprised if it gets its first ever vinyl issue this year. And in that same vein, what may shock you is that Shakira, ever since she hit mainstream fame with her album Laundry Service, nothing has been on vinyl. None of those records hit wax. She-Wolf, like the album with Hips Don't Lie that I can't think of the name of right now, none of them are on vinyl. It's crazy to me. if Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera are getting vinyl, why is Shakira not? So I think that, much like Savage Garden, this could be the time to start announcing some Shakira issues, because I know a lot of pop fans that would lose their mind. The next one I want to talk about is Company Flow's Funcrusher Plus. This is a classic underground hip-hop album from LP's first rap group before he was in Run the Jewels. LP has reached an all-time high fame with Run the Jewels. He is worldwide acclaimed for his producing and his rapping. Funcrusher Plus is an amazing record that probably not every Run the Jewels fan has heard of, and I know that LP is currently working on reissuing his solo career. I think Fantastic Damage is the next one to come. If Vinyl Me Please doesn't do Funcrusher Plus, I think RSD could be a cool way to get it out there. Coconut Records, Night Timing, or Davy. The actor Jason Schwartzman was in a band called Coconut Records, and he made really good indie rock, indie pop type stuff. Night Timing is my favorite of the two records, but both have been out of print since I started getting into vinyl, and they also were only on picture discs. I feel like this would be a great time to kind of reissue them for new people into the hobby. They really have some killer tracks. The single from Night Timing in particular was on a lot of TV shows, etc., etc. I would love to see proper issues of these on colored vinyl or black vinyl, just maybe not a picture disc this time. And I think RSD would be a good place to debut them. And finally, can't leave this video without talking about Smash Mouth. The boys in Smash Mouth, I've been tweeting at them for years, put Astro Lounge on vinyl, and sometimes they respond, whether it's a like or an actual response, and they seem interested, but maybe not interested enough to have done it yet. I think it's about time. Astro Lounge is one of those extremely nostalgic albums from my youth. Everyone knows All Star and some of the other singles, but the whole album actually holds up as a pretty solid listen. Same with their first album, Fushu Mang. So either one on vinyl would be an awesome nostalgic get that wouldn't just be sitting in the cube as, oh, why'd I buy this? I would actually spin them because they're good albums. So those are my predictions. Obviously some are more rooted in reality than others, but I would love for you to leave a comment below with whatever you think might come out for Record Store Day, whether it's something you just hope or something that you think based on something you've heard might be a reality. So I look forward to reading your comments and speculation. Thanks for watching this video. More coming soon. I hope you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any videos I put out. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.